situation, and so I thought I'd drag one of those talks out and recycle it today. Recycling is all the rage, but not just to recycle it, because it's an interesting aspect of how not just to meditate, but just how to let go of difficulties in your life. This is the talk on the 4 ways of letting go. And this is straight from a Buddha's teaching. In fact, the first teaching of the Buddha is part of that teaching. But also, it's a case that, number one, no matter whether you meditate or you don't meditate, whether you're a Buddhist, a Christian, a Muslim, a Hindu, or whatever, each one of us has from time to time to learn how to let go. Because sometimes not being able to let go, carrying around the bad memories of the past, the bad feelings of the present, the fears of the future, not being able to let them go causes us so much pain and suffering. And not just us pain and suffering, it causes all the people who have to put up with us a lot of pain and suffering. So at the very least, for the compassion of your family and the people you work with, please train your mind to be able to let go, to be peaceful and happy. And so that's one of the reasons I decided to be happy, out of compassion for all the people who have to put up with me. That's a very good reason. So, you learn something in Buddhism called how to let go. And by learning how to let go, it doesn't mean you let go all the time and become a monk or a nun. Even if you do become a monk or a nun, you still have to work hard, you have to keep your responsibilities. You can't just let go all the time, but it's a very beautiful part of your repertoire that you know at any time, in any situation, you've got something to do which most other people can't do. You can just let things go and let things be. Simple things. It always surprises me why it is that someone hurts you. They cheat you. They let you down. Or they say terrible things about you, big time. Why can't you just let it go? Because if you don't let it go, that person continues to hurt you, continues to harm you. It's a really weird thing, isn't it? They've hurt you once, and because you attach to it and carry it around, they hurt you again, and again, and again, and again. Every time you think of it, they're hurting you one more time. When you look at it that way, it's totally unreasonable, illogical. One of the most foolish things you could ever do is to get angry at someone who hurt you. Because when they hurt you, and you get angry, they're hurting you twice over. So someone hurts you. Can't do anything about it. Let it go. It's gone. You let it go, and they can only ever hurt you once. And then you let it go. So it's easy to do when you realize how you let these things go. Not only that, sometimes we have all these fears of the future. I don't know, some of you probably, if you haven't yet, one day you go to doctor and say, you've got breast cancer, you've got prostate cancer, you've got lung cancer, you've got some sort of cancer. There's a whole variety of cancers now, just like the whole variety of muesli. When I was young, you could only get one brand. So this is the choice you have these days. So when you have any of these diseases, what do? You worry yourself sick. You're already sick enough, and now you worry yourself sick even further. It's a totally daft and stupid thing to do. So why can't you let go of the future? Enjoy this moment. And as I said, I actually never said that this evening. It's strange. I used to say this every week in meditation. Where is your future made? When is the only time you can do anything about your future? Right now. This is the place. Your future peace, health and happiness is being constructed. So every time you worry about your future, oh, what's going to happen to me? I'm going to die. You're actually neglecting the place you can do something, which is right now. So if you can just make peace, be kind, be gentle, if you can let go of the future and the past and just be now, you're going to be a very healthy, happy, successful person. And people sort of do bad things to you, just let it go. Why should I allow those people to control my happiness? Or, as one of my favorite sayings goes, you know, you get these calendars. You used to get the calendars, we ran out of them. Every year the Buddhist Society makes a calendar. And they try and put some of Ajahn Brahm's sayings on that calendar. And the one saying I like the most, which never gets on that calendar, is this one. Why seek for revenge? Because you know that karma will get the bastards anyway. I don't know why that never gets on the calendar. But it's a good one, isn't it? You don't have to do anything. Karma will sort it out. Leave it alone. You let it go. The trouble is we all know it's a reasonable thing to let it go. It makes a lot of sense. But you can't do it. Which is why we teach the 4 ways of letting go. So instead of saying let go, how do you let go? Tell me how to let go. And now the Buddha is going to tell you how to let go with the 4 ways of letting go. The first way of letting go, it was starting off with an old experience with my teacher, Ajahn Chava, a long time ago. We were walking back from Alms Round, and the great teacher, they always find an opportunity to sort of give you some teaching. But not these teachings with so many words and big concepts. Just simple, down-to-earth teachings, which once you hear, you think, crikey, that's really good. And you remember it, and it changes much of your life. What he did on this occasion, walking back, he picked up a stick. There's forest all over the place. Picked up a stick and turned around and says, Baba Wangso, is this heavy? Is this heavy? Not now. I was very careful I didn't throw that too far. I didn't wonder why I was going to bust. It's only heavy when you hold it. But if you let it go, it's got no weight at all. Profound, simple, and unforgettable. So what heavy things have you got in your life right now? Job, cancer, relationship problems, money problems. Is that heavy? It's only heavy when you hold it. So why on earth can't we let it go? Why can't we throw it away? At the retreat, I told all those people who were still worried about their family, worried about their job, to actually to get a stick in the forest in Jhana Grove and either get a pen or carve my family on the stick. Look at that stick, that's my family, and throw it as far as you possibly can. So you're free for 9 days. And you can change that. You can put my job. You can put, my husband, my wife, my kids, my life. Throw it away. Because what that does, it gives you an understanding that the first way of letting go is chucking things out. Because you live such complicated lives. You have so many things in your basket. And that means you can not travel lightly on the journey of life. Imagine a big backpack. You see all these backpackers in Perth. I used to go backpacking. My backpack was really small. These days I have huge backpacks. Just wonder what they got in there. What do you actually need in there? Probably got their computer, and they didn't have computers in those days. Just go to a box as a phone if you want to read. Don't have to have your own phone, but you have very light in those days. They get big backpacks. Imagine you've got a big backpack on, and it's really heavy. It's full of all these, not just clothes, but rocks, heavy granite rocks. And you walk through life with this, and you just don't know how to take it off and put it down. You're going to get very tired. You're going to get very sick. And you're going to have no happiness at all. You're going to be so grumpy because every moment of your life you're exhausted. Do you feel exhausted? In your mind? Why? Because you've been carrying too many things in the backpack around your mind. So we actually look in that backpack. What can I throw away? And this is the first way of letting go. See what you can, see what you can throw away. It's amazing. You can throw away many, many more things than you could imagine. And nothing goes wrong. If you throw away all this concern about your future and past, actually nothing goes wrong. That's the first big stone to get out of your backpack and throw away. I don't know about your history. Has it been a good history or a bad history? I haven't got a clue because I threw my stone out a long time ago. So you're free of your past. The past is a prison. It's a cell with an open door. You can walk out any time you like. But a lot of times, just like people who've been in prison a long time, they're just a bit afraid of leaving. They've been used to that prison cell. So much so, it's hard to walk out. But once they have the courage to let go of the past, just like the prisoner walking out for the first time, freedom. I feel so good and so happy. This big burden, this big pain, this big rock I've let go of. Isn't that wonderful? So, see if you can look at your past. Even get a stick in the forest. Write my past on it. And throw it as far, even better, get a rock, spray paint past on it, and throw it in the river. And let it sink.With no trace left behind. And then imagine how free you feel. You can do this. You can let go of these things. But when we don't have the courage to let go, the first way of letting go with throwing things away is have someone convince you it can be done and it's good to do. A lot of times we think we shouldn't.A lot of times we think we can learn from the past. You don't learn from the past. You actually get a lot of pain from the past. You learn much more from letting go of the past than you do from keeping the past. So we just allow it just to disappear. And as for the future, what might happen next?At the retreat, people were telling me about 2012, when the world is going to end. The tectonic plates are going to shift. There's going to be tsunamis. There's going to be earthquakes. So, forget about having a mortgage. You don't have to pay it off for another 2 years. Of course it's not going to end in 2 years' time or whatever it is. You don't think about that. In fact, I saw in Indonesia, people were talking about it, even in Indonesia, in the islands over there. And I said, look, I volunteer my monastery and the whole Buddhist society of Western Australia with all its assets against your house. I'll bet. If the world ends, you get our monastery and the Buddhist society of Western Australia's assets. If it doesn't end, we get your house. No one took me up on it. Of course, that's not much of a deal. But people are so afraid of the future. And one thing I can guarantee you about your future, I can read futures, just like Ajahn Chah used to do. I can predict. And I predict the future of Australia. And I tell you, I won't be wrong. The future of Australia is uncertain. That's not just a joke. That actually shows you that you cannot know what's going to happen next. Any time in your life, you just know, you don't know what's going to happen. Your life has been so surprising. It's gone in directions you could never have predicted, each one of you. And this is the uncertainty of our life. So let go of the future, throw it away. So what we're doing is we're letting go by throwing things out, seeing what we can jettison, see what we don't really need on our journey. And then next thing you can do is throw away this complaining mind. Look, dogs are barking again. How many times do they bark? Should we do something about these dogs? You can't. That's what dogs do. They bark. That's their nature. So throw away all this complaining. Take it. No. I've finished now. You can stop barking, dogs. Same as your husband. Sometimes you want to throw your husband away. That's what husbands are like. That's what they do. That's what wives do. That's what kids do. I was on this aircraft, many aircraft flying all over Indonesia, and they always have these kids. All the time in the aircraft. And sometimes I think, can we not open the door and throw them out? But I can't do that because I'm a compassionate monk. But instead of throwing the baby out, what you do is you throw your complaining out the window. Start complaining, let go of that. So I look at my mind, and you've got this what we call fault-finding, complaining mind. You know what that type of mind is. That fault-finding, complaining mind can drive you nuts. There's always something wrong. Buddhist society, there's always something wrong with this place. Like today, we didn't have the right tea. I mean, that's not good enough. If there's not the right tea next week, Dennis Shepherd, President, I'm not coming ever again. No, of course you don't think like that, because that's just a complaining, negative mind. And it doesn't get you anywhere. Even if you do get the right tea, someone will drink it before I get to it, so who cares? So the point is, just let go of your complaining mind. Throw it out. Has that ever got you anywhere? And you look at that complaining mind, it just drives you nuts and makes you a really terrible person to live with. So it's nothing else. You can see, I don't want this. Literally, throw it away. It's as easy to do as that. It's letting go of the negativity. And letting go of all this stupid thinking we do. Not only the negative thinking, but even some of the positive thinking. Because we think far too much, and that stops us getting any peace in life. Whenever you're thinking about life, you can't enjoy life. You're just listening to the commentary. You're reading a book about life. The thoughts and ideas in your mind. You're not really enjoying the real thing. That's why there's this old simile, it's an old meditation story of Lao Tzu. Every evening he would go on a walk, and he'd choose one of his disciples. Only one could go on a walk with the great master. There was a golden rule. If you weren't on a walk with the great Taoist master, you had to be quiet. You weren't allowed to speak, not even one word. One day this young man was going on a walk with the master, and they got to a ridge in the mountains at sunset, and it was one of these amazing, gorgeous sunsets. And the young man couldn't help himself but say, "Wow, what a beautiful sunset." He broke the rule. Lao Tzu turned around, went back to the monastery, would never allow that young man to go on a walk ever again. And the young man's friend pleaded for him, said, "Look, it's only one sentence. Give him a break, cut him some slack. What's the big deal anyway of keeping silent?" And that's when the master said this very profound explanation. He said, when that young man said, "What a beautiful sunset," he wasn't watching the sunset anymore. He was only watching the words. He wasn't watching the sunset. He was only watching the words. And that's actually very deep. Every time you think, "What a beautiful sunset," you're not watching it anymore. You're watching the words. And so much of us, we just watch words. That's all our life is, just words. It's divorced from real life. We don't feel, we don't see, we don't hear. We just live in what we think we hear, what we think we see, what we think we know. So it's a great thing to be able to throw out all that thinking. And you get peaceful at life at last. You don't have to do this all the time. Just every now and again, learn how to throw it out. I told a story a long time ago about my mother's mantel shelf. She's an English woman. She's in a home now. She's very old. But in her house, like many English people's house, they had a fireplace. And above the fireplace, they have mantel shelf. And on that mantel shelf, they keep the knickknacks, the mementos, the photographs, and all the things which bring back happy memories. And so that one day, I'd just been in Australia for a few years, and I went to visit my mother, and so I brought her a gift. And what sort of gift do you bring? Someone gave me a stuffed kangaroo. A little fluffy toy, really cute. So I brought that back and gave it to my mother, and she liked it very much. She put it on her mantel shelf. Next time I went over there, someone managed to get me a koala. And so I took that back, and she said, "Oh, it's so beautiful. Every time I see this, I can remember you in Australia." So she put it on her mantel shelf next to the kangaroo. The next time I managed to get a kookaburra. The time afterwards, a platypus. And the fifth time I went, I managed to get a wombat. The trouble was the wombat was so big, she tried to put it on the mantel shelf and all the other ones fell off. And she spent about an hour trying to balance it on her shelf, and everything else fell off. I said, "Why didn't you throw those other things away?" She said, "No, these are nice, they remind you of me." And he had so much rubbish on that shelf. And I said, "Mother, this is like the person, they get one more thing in their head, they have nervous breakdown. Your mantel shelf's having nervous breakdown." That's what happens. We collect so many thoughts and so much stuff. So if that was my mantel shelf, every time if I got a kangaroo, I'd just put that on. Everything else will be clear. And the next time someone gave me something else, I throw that one away and get something new. So one thing at a time in your head. And then your mantel shelf inside your brain never ever has a nervous breakdown. That's what I always do. I have all these jobs which I'm supposed to do. And I've just been on this teaching tour of Indonesia, all over the place. And I'm also spiritual director of Buddhist Society of Western Australia, Abbot Bodhinyana Monastery, look after the nuns monastery at Dhammasara, spiritual advisor of the Buddhist Society of South Australia, spiritual advisor, patron of whatever, Buddhist Society of Victoria, the director of Wat Buddha Dhamma in Sydney, spiritual patron of Bodhi Kusama Meditation Centre, director of Brahma Education Centre in Singapore, spiritual patron of Buddhist Fellowship in Singapore. What else am I doing? Oh, vice chair of the Australia Sangha Association. A few other things. I've missed out a few. What is it? I forget now. Anyway, I've got all these jobs. But I only do one at a time. So when I'm sort of here in this building, I just put Buddhist Society of Western Australia on my mantel shelf. And that's all I am. And then as soon as I leave, I throw that away. And then I'm just teacher at Jhana Grove Meditation Retreat Centre. And that's the only thing on my mantel shelf. And as soon as I leave that and go back to Bodhinyana Monastery, I throw that away. Now I'm Abbot of Bodhinyana Monastery. I just got one thing on my mantel shelf at a time. That's why you're sane and peaceful and happy. So throw things away and only keep one thing. The present moment, what's happening now. That becomes the first way of letting go. Learning to throw things out and stop keeping so much. Especially don't keep the past or the future. Second way of letting go is just learning what freedom truly is. And this particular story is an anecdote when one of our monks, when I was too busy doing all these other things, we used to go teaching in prisons, but another monk started teaching in prison. And when he started teaching in prison, it was in Casuarina prison, one of the top security jails. After a while, the prisoners there said, "Can you stay back a bit longer? We want to sort of talk to you, just find out about you." So he stayed back a little bit longer. They gave him a cup of tea and some chocolate. If you give a monk a cup of tea and chocolate, they're going to stay forever. So he stayed behind for a bit of tea and chocolate. And they started asking him questions about life in a Buddhist monastery in the West. What do you guys do? Have you ever wondered what we do, in our monastery? And so he said, okay, the day in the life of a monk, we get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And just at that, the prisoners were aghast. 4 o'clock in the morning! Even in prison, you don't have to get up that time. And the monk, he did actually make a qualification. He said, actually, it's voluntary. It's optional, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is true. It's optional. You can always get up earlier if you want to. That's the only option. And then what do you do? And he told them, we meditate. He said, can't you just watch the end of the late night movie? So no, we don't have TVs. You don't have TVs in the monastery. We have TVs in our cells. In prison. That's terrible. So what do you do then? You have your breakfast. And we do have a breakfast at monastery. We usually have one cup, we have cereal in it, and that's about it. Or, someone like Santuti, he has his noodles. But it's only 1 cup, that's all. And I said, wow, in Casuarina jail, we can have bacon, we have pancakes, We can have cereal, we have everything there, whatever you want. They said, why didn't you do that in the monastery? No, so we only have just a bit of cereal and that's it. And then what do you do in the morning? And then we work hard at Bodhinyana Monastery. We do this amazing chores, building. And even I do that. If you go down a retreat centre, we're doing this ramp, and I was spending 2 days cutting the bricks. It was huge angle grinder, really heavy work, getting myself all dusty. And I like some joining in when there's any concrete work. I tell the story once, I was doing concrete work. When you do concrete work, he was the monk, you get it all splashed all over you. So, it's boys being boys, and I'm still a boy. Still just maybe a bit old to be a boy, but I still like getting myself all dirty. So I get all this concrete on top of me. And as I was walking back to my hut to have a shower, you passed a Sri Lankan woman, and she was in this really expensive sari. She was visiting the monastery, and she came up to me, and I'll never forget this. She said, I've come to see the abbot Ajahn Brahm. And I was thought very quickly, and I said, madam, if you go to the hall over there, he'll probably be there in about 15 minutes. That was enough time for me to go to my room, get a shower and get changed into some clean robes. And so I went up to the hall, and there she was waiting. And I said, I'm Ajahn Brahm. She never recognised me. That's how dirty I was. And I gave her a nice talk, about the monastery and about Buddhism and what we were doing here. And she was really impressed. And so just before she left, she said, you've got a really good monastery and you're a really good monk. But if you don't mind me saying this, I saw this really dirty monk when I came here. And I think you should do something about that. I said, I'll talk to him later, ma'am. Which I did. So that's actually how hard we work. And when the prisoners heard this, again, they were really surprised. Because, in prison you have to do jobs, but they really take it easy in those jails in Australia. They said they'll never get us to work that hard. And they said, then you have your lunch. Yeah, we have our lunch. We have it, many of you have been to a monastery, we eat it out of a bowl. Everything goes in one bowl. Sometimes it's true you do get curry on spaghetti. No, sorry, I got that wrong. You got custard on spaghetti, that's right. Have you ever had custard on spaghetti? Why are you saying yuck for? You've never eaten it. But actually, you're right, it is gross. So now you have custard on spaghetti. I've had ice cream on curry. Chocolate ice cream. Yeah, that's also yucky. Because you put it in your bowl. And for me, because I'm the senior monk, I put it in the bowl myself and I give it to somebody to take up because that's their duty. And by the time they're not really careful, they shake it all over the place. I put it in the right positions when I start. By the time it gets up there, it's all over the place. But that's life. And they were saying that sort of in prison, actually, even when you go to solitary, you get a tray. The custard is here and the spaghetti's over there. It's separate compartments. Don't you have compartments in your bowl? Have a look at our bowls. We don't have compartments. It all goes all over the place. That's disgusting. So what do you do in the afternoon? So we meditate. So, can't you sort of, play some music or sort of, play a game of footy or something? No, we're not allowed to play footy. We just meditate all afternoon. So I didn't get bored. So no, what I was supposed to do? I suppose you hang out for dinner. Dinner? We don't have dinner in our monasteries. We just eat in the morning time. There's no dinner. So, or even in prison, they give you something to eat in the evening, and you have snacks throughout the day, whatever you want. So what do you do in the evening then? Can you play cards? Play Monopoly or something? Pass the time? And they said, no, we can't do that. Don't tell us, they said. You meditate, don't you? Yeah, of course we do. Oh, God. That must be terrible. And then what time do you go to bed? And the monk said, bed? Bed? We don't have beds. I sleep on the floor. They were absolutely disgusted. Even in prison they put you in that little cot with a mattress on top. No, in our monastery I sleep on the floor. And anyway, the prisoners were actually really surprised. They're really surprised, but not only surprised, they felt sorry for this monk who'd been visiting them. And this is a true story. One of them was so upset that this man